Hello. All right. Happy Wednesday. This is the 12th and the beginning of our final unit of the school year. Now we are starting ecology. Ecology makes up the single largest segment of the Regents exam every year. Your ability to master this topic will have a greater impact on your ability to pass the Regents exam coming up in about a month. Than probably any other unit, for better or for worse. It's just kind of how it is. This is one of the reasons why we save ecology for last, so it's the freshest in your brain. It hasn't been there as long as cells, where there's been a lot of time that stuff could kind of fade out and disappear, kind of decay. This way, ecology is new, fresh, it's right there, and hopefully that makes it a lot easier on the test itself when you need to start answering questions. Now, for today, we're going to be taking a look right now at number 52. Lab number 52 is our Darien Food Web Lab. So this lab, it's really important for people to understand what I'm looking for, because most of this lab is geared for a much higher, it's like a college level biology. So I want you to understand what I expect to see from you in order to get credit for this lab. So you can see it right here. We are in Unit 7 Ecology in week number 1. We're going to go over our ecology term list, right? And then we're going to go over the lab. Wow, complete brain fart right there. Let's move on. All right, so if we click on this, it's going to bring up this, this packet. Now, this packet requires use of these cards. They're files. They're also found in the folder where you can find the lab if you're working on this online. It will be just a little bit more complicated, and I'll show you why in a few minutes. But what we're going to do starts off pretty simple, right? We're going to go through the different cards that we have, and we're going to identify how many producers are in this pack, how many consumers are in this pack. Just so you remember, if they say producer, they mean an autotroph, one of our new terms, not an autotroph, autotroph, which are plants. And if they say consumer, they mean a heterotroph, another one of our new terms. So you want to look through it, you want to find out how many of them are plants and how many of them are animals. Then you're going to make up a food chain, right? It says a food chain goes, does it do A to B, a consumer is consumed by a producer, or a producer is consumed by a consumer? And then explain why. Then what you're going to do is you're going to select 4 different cards from these to make one food chain. So you're going to need a producer, a primary consumer, a secondary consumer, and a tertiary consumer. Now, to figure this out, it works out nicely, because when you take a look at something like the tapir card and you flip it over, it tells you what they eat and what eats them. So all we need to do is look through the cards and find a sequence where this gets eaten by that gets eaten by that gets eaten by that. It's all in the cards. And then you'll just list that out here. Like if we were talking about locally in New York State and not Panama, we'd say something like grass. And grass gets eaten by something like a beetle, which gets eaten by a frog, which gets eaten by a bird, right? That's a 4-step food chain. Now, for number 6, you're now going to take your food chain, same food chain, and what you want to do now is you want to look through these cards for an ecological impact, something like logging, something that's going to help or not help. It's going to destroy, it's going to disrupt things. You want to put the title over here, like logging. And now 4 ecosystem impacts noted on the card. So if we flip it over, it's got all of this text. And for instance, it says specifically they chopped down the largest and valuable trees. So the largest and valuable ones are cut down. And it says that, however, this often damages the other nearby trees. It says it reduces the habitat quality. And we don't really have a fourth thing, so that's fine. Now, predict how these impacts would affect each trophic level. So if you remember the one I had up here for grass to the beetle to the frog to the hawk, now we'd want to go through and say the grass, how would that be affected? Well, if trees are removed, grass would increase because now there's more sunlight reaching it, which means the beetles would increase. And if there's more grass and there's more beetles and there's more frogs. But there's going to be less birds because the trees are gone. So they've lost their home. Right? So you just want to fill out whatever would be accurate for it. It says not all disturbances have negative consequences. In 1 or 2 sentences, describe possible benefits that one trophic level in your food chain may gain. Well, that's easy. The grass would grow better. They would get more light. So yeah, that would be a positive, even though there's a lot of negative. Then you're going to come down here to the food pyramid, and it kind of describes it. We're going to talk about this, of course, during class. Why is the pyramid an effective model for showing energy flow? It's all in the diagram. Now it wants you to place the organisms from your food chain here, right here at number 5, into this pyramid. So, once again, I was going to say grass, beetle, frog, hawk, or bird. Using the rule of 10%, you want to find out how this many calories, 3,500,000, would move up. Here's a secret. Take your value and multiply by 0.1. Just move the decimal over because this is all metric. In 1 or 2 sentences, describe how the energy available might affect population sizes. Well, if there's more energy, is their population going to go up or down? All right, then we're going to start a food web. Now, this gets a little bit more complicated. You have one food chain already. For instance, we had our grass to our beetle to the frog to the bird. Now what it wants you to do is make up another one. So let's say tree to squirrel to snake to alligator. Is that accurate? No, but I don't want you copying this. And then what you want to do is now you want to connect them. So will squirrels eat grass? Yeah, probably. Will beetles eat tree? Yep, probably. Does the frog eat squirrels? No. No, it does not. Does the snake eat beetles? Yeah, snakes will eat beetles. Will the bird at the top eat the frog and the squirrel? You betcha. Will the bird eat snakes? Usually. Will the alligator eat a bird? Will the alligator eat a frog? Probably not. Too small. right? So now we've created a food web. Now we have multiple different species and we're seeing the connections between them. Then it wants you to describe it. Now it wants you to go through your cards and pick a new ecological force. Last time we did logging. This time maybe we do something like hunting or farming. I'm trying to find one here. Here we go, hunting. Once again, so then you would list it over here, hunting. For impact, so once again, go to the back of the card, read out what it does, list out a couple of the things that it mentions here. How would this impact your food web? Okay, so now we want to do the same thing we did up here, but now we want to take into account our entire food web, all of these. Number 15, describe whether some trophic levels benefit from the disturbance while others do not. Yeah, you're probably going to have some that do better with whatever that is. Like, for instance, if they're hunting something like the alligators, well, then the snakes, the birds, they're going to both be better because they still have lots of food to eat, but nothing's eating them. All right, and then finally, we're going to evaluate the models. We've done 3 models in this one lab to see how energy moves. The food chain, the energy pyramid, and the food web. For each one, list 2 things this model did well, 2 things that it showed you well, that worked well. And then identify 1 thing that did not work well. So for instance, the food chain, it shows that energy movement, right? Grass to beetle to frog to bird. That's the thing that does well. What doesn't it do well? Well, there ain't only 4 animals in a place. There is not only grass, beetles, frogs, and birds. There are lots of different types of birds. There's lots of different types of frogs. There's also things like snakes and turtles and rabbits and squirrels and thousands of types of bugs, right? So that's one thing the food chain does not do well. It doesn't account for all of the animals. And you want to do your best to go through there. And then finally, for number 16, you are going to identify which one of these 3 models do you think is the best, and tell me why. That's it. Don't even worry about this last page. This is literally designed for you to put your species in, but you can see most people, myself included, just write it in right on this one. But that's the whole lab. It does have a lot more hands-on work than people realize. Just in organizing the cards and going through them. Now, for most of you who are watching this, you are probably going to be doing this online. And online brings with it some other challenges. So let me show you what the cards are going to look like. All right, so the Darien Food Web cards. Should have been right there. Huh. One moment, please. This is from HHMI, Howard Hughes Medical Institute, and their fantastic work. I'm going to get a copy of this. All right. This will be posted up with all the rest of your stuff, I believe. Is this the cards? This is not the cards. There we go. Now, for the cards, if you're online, it is just a little bit more complicated. And the reason for that is when we have them here in person, I've printed and cut all of them out. And the way they're organized is you get the image on one side, and then the text about that animal on the back. Well, online, that's not the case. So here we see them, and what you'll then have to do is come down to the next page. So you'll see up here is jaguar. That's the first one. So if we come down here, here's jaguar. And now it tells you all that same information. It helps you out in order to figure out what's connected to what, just like flipping the card over does, but instead you actually have to look for it instead of just flipping the card. But otherwise, it works exactly the same for all of the animals, all of the plants, and all of the ecological disruptions that you see there. All right, so very straightforward and simple. I hope that helps and clarifies our food webs lab. This lab will probably take a little bit of time in order to finish. I'm not expecting people to get it done in a single bell. And make sure that you tune into the YouTube channel, because once again, I'm going to be uploading my day-to-day. We are not doing human body anymore, which means YouTube won't shut down the videos because they contain graphic or inappropriate material, because we're talking about the circulatory system and I show a picture of a heart. So now I can go back to posting these. Please make sure that you follow along there if you miss anything. Ladies and gentlemen, have an excellent day, and I'll see you in class.